Discover the incredible journey of a 12-year-old whose hidden talent transformed lives forever. In the heart of Maplewood, a place seemingly untouched by time, 12-year-old Mia Johnson found herself wrapped in a world of extraordinary secrets. It was a town of picket fences and friendly waves, where convenience stores whisked away darkness with bright neon lights at dusk. But for Mia, life wasn't the fairy tale it appeared to be. The buzz of laughter at summer barbecues had turned into anxious whispers about groceries and bills since her father lost his job at the factory. Endless nights were filled with worried glances and the sound of her mother's muffled sobs behind closed doors. Among the dust and shadows of her family's struggles stood her grandmother's old piano in the attic, a relic cloaked in mystery and longing. Each time Mia slid her fingers over the yellowed keys, magic erupted. They whispered stories of the past, lost dreams, and flickering hope. It felt alive beneath her fingertips, and each enchanting note seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the community's aspirations, yearning to rise above the desperation surrounding them. Mia's melodies traveled through the walls and echoed out into the streets, catching the attention of Mr. Thompson, a retired music teacher known for his fierce passion for talent. He recognized the spark in Mia and offered guidance and support. Suddenly, Mia felt her spirit dance. "If I can play it, I can be it," she declared, her mantra and shield against the inevitable storms of doubt. But in the halls of Maplewood Middle School, her dreams crashed against hard realities. Dreamer echoed through the air like a taunt, mocking her passion. As the annual Maplewood Talent Show crept closer, pressure tightened around her like a vice. Her father's health took a sudden downturn, straining their frail family tether. Mia's heart clenched as she watched him struggle. The strength and stability she once knew was now replaced by uncertainty. So much rested on her small shoulders. Even this talent show seemed to matter more than it should. The joy of playing transformed into a battlefield where each note she struck tugged at her self-worth and her family's fragile state. The night of the show arrived. Excitement buzzed in the auditorium, thick with voices and hope. As Mia stepped onto the stage, the spotlight slashed across her trembling hands. This moment wasn't just hers, it captured the essence of her family's resilience, their collective dreams bruised yet unbroken. She pushed her nerves aside, yet doubt crept in. Would they hear her story? In that breath, she felt the weight of her family's sacrifices behind her, fueling the fire she needed. As she began to play, the lights dimmed, and the energy shifted. Her melody, a mixture of sorrow and hope, filled the room. Goosebumps pricked her skin as she took notice of an old friend from her past, now surrounded by a crowd of naysayers, their whispers sharp enough to draw blood. The music swelled, emotions rising, as her performance reached a striking peak. Would her song unite the listeners, dissolve divisions? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With every chord, Mia felt the weight of doubt hovering over her like a shadow. Just as encouragement flickered in the audience, a chilling silence drowned the music, stealing the air from her lungs. Mia sensed the gravity of that moment, her heart racing as she played on. The applause that erupted might just echo through the turbulent waters of Maplewood, but right now, uncertainty loomed large. Would her melody pierce through the veil or succumb to the familiar pattern of silence? A ripple of change lingered in the air, and Mia held her breath, waiting for the tide to turn. Mia's fingers danced furiously over the keys, each note reverberating through the hearts of those listening. As she poured her soul into the performance, shadows flickered against the walls of the auditorium, shadows from the past creeping into her present, memories that begged for resolution. But something shifted in the air. A disturbance. She glanced to the side of the stage where Mr. Thompson stood, jaw tight, eyes wide, looking at something behind her. A knot formed in her stomach as she instinctively turned her gaze toward the dimly lit backstage area. Curtains swayed slightly, and for a second, she thought she saw a figure. Her heart raced, but she couldn't lose focus. The music was unrelenting, it cried out with urgency, a plea for connection, a bridge to her audience. Just when she reached the climax of her composition, a sudden crash startled her. It came from backstage, the audience gasped, a collective inhale echoing through the auditorium. Mia stumbled on her keys, the melodic flow interrupted, cold fear creeping in. She felt the breath of doubt burn her throat. Had she broken something? Or was danger lurking around that velvet curtain, threatening the very joy she tried to create? Before she could gather herself, the curtains flung open, revealing a tall figure cloaked in shadows, none other than Jake, her childhood friend, the one she'd seen earlier. His eyes held panic, and he yelled over the surprised gasps of the crowd. "Mia! You need to stop. It's not safe." Confusion twisted in her gut. Was he serious? The energy of the crowd shifted from excitement to anxiety, hands shaking in disbelief, people turning in their seats. The music slipped away, and the weight of silence filled the room once more, pushing against her chest like an unwelcome hand. "Jake! What are you talking about?" She shouted back, frustration bubbling alongside worry. Had he come to sabotage this moment, to remind her of the petty ridicule from before? No time to explain. Jake's voice was ragged. "They're coming, and they're looking for you." Mia's heart dropped even further. Who was coming? What did he mean? Before she could process it all, her mind raced back to the whispers and rumors, the secrets her town had kept buried. The audience, once poised on the edge of applause, now buzzed with uneasy uncertainty. Mia's knees trembled beneath her. In the middle of this chaos, she caught Mr. Thompson's eyes. He was filled with determination, as if daring her to act. The lingering energy of her music was palpable, the fleeting hope now tethered to the chaos unraveling before her. Without a second thought, Mia sprang into action. "I'll play," she declared, her voice edging upon resolve. "They'll hear what I have to say." With that, she resumed playing, deeper this time, the notes swelling into a fervent call for unity. The key of her melody became a beacon. Could she turn the tide, break the barrier, lead the town to figure out what was lurking? As she played, the chaos turned into curiosity. Faces in the crowd began to soften, jaws unhinging as they focused on her. But in the depths of her heart, the question gnawed. A battle raged between responding to fear and embracing her voice. What would happen when the last note faded? As Mia held on to the now desperate rhythm of her song, a creeping shadow fell across the stage, and a murmured chant from the audience began to swell. Each note unfurled a secret, uncoiling each thread that held Maplewood together. But whose secrets would surface by the powerful end? And what confrontations awaited them in the wake of her daring choice? A world teetered on the brink, and Mia felt that within her melodies lay the power to unearth what had been buried for too long. But would it come with unforeseen consequences? The sound of Mia's music enveloped the auditorium, rising and falling like the tide, each note a lighthouse guiding the lost toward safety. As she played, a strange tension crackled in the air, an electric undercurrent that seemed to connect her with the audience. Their hearts beat in unison, but danger lurked in the shadows, and she felt it. Jake hovered near the edge of the stage, his silhouette battling against the dim light. Fear etched into his features, his eyes darted as whispers rippled through the crowd. "It's not just about you, Mia," he shouted, desperation piercing through each word. "You need to listen to me." Her fingers faltered, hesitation threatening to derail the delicate rhythm she'd built. With strict resolve, she pressed on, letting the power of her melody drown out his warnings. Maybe, just maybe, her music could unfurl the truth. But that truth could be a double-edged sword. The audience leaned in closer, mesmerized yet terrified. Shouts of confusion broke through. Some waved their hands, pleading for attention, while others exchanged frantic glances. "What is happening?" a voice cried out, a mix of excitement and dread. Mia's heart hammered. She couldn't just fade into the shadows now. She must confront this moment. Suddenly, the curtains quivered once more, and from behind them emerged flickering shadows that twisted and turned with sinister intention. The crowd gasped, and Mia's heartbeat echoed in her ears. The shadows coalesced into figures, dressed in black, faces obscured. What had Jake been warning her about? Stop! This ends now. One figure strode into the light, his voice firm like thunder, shaking the very foundations of the auditorium. It was the town's mayor, his demeanor a stark contrast to the anxious crowd. This deception has gone on long enough. Mia's fingers hesitated once again. The mayor's words created a fissure between her beloved music and the haunting tone of impending danger. What kind of deception was he talking about? Were they here to take her back into the darkness of the secrets she sought to illuminate? Her melody faltered for the first time, uncertainty overtaking the lilting notes. She glanced at Jake. He couldn't give up now. They needed a plan, a strategy to confront whatever threat these intruders posed. But would a powerful voice be enough? In that moment of pause, the mayor pointed at her. You're playing with fire, Mia. You don't know what you're awakening. Mia's stomach twisted into knots. Awakening? What had she stirred from its slumber? She channeled her confusion into a new frenetic rhythm, her fingers flying again over the keys, each note a plea, a challenge. If she played louder, maybe she could drown out the storm brewing. Suddenly, the elderly woman in the front row, Granny Callahan, stood up. Let her be. If she can reveal the truth, we need. But her voice faded as the shadows moved closer, cutting through the tension like a knife. The crowd held its breath, eyes locked on the stage where the conflict brewed unabated. Mia's heart raced. What truth? She demanded, her voice threading through the music that echoed in the chamber. Show me. With that, something in the figures shifted. The air went tense, heavy with secrets unspoken. As if summoned by her challenge, a shadow rose and turned, revealing a face Mia had hoped never to see again. The looks exchanged silenced her music. Was this the closure she needed? Or was she about to step into a nightmare? The moment hung, fragile as a thread. But in the sudden stillness, Mia felt the reckoning. She had awakened something, but what was it? Salvation or destruction? And somewhere deep within, a dawning realization emerged. The truth awaited, but at what cost? The atmosphere thickened like fog rolling in from the ocean. Every eye in the auditorium, wide with disbelief, found its way back to the stage where Mia stood, immobilized. The figure emerging from the shadows was none other than her estranged father, the face that had haunted her dreams, wrapped in memories laced with bitterness and yearning. Mia. His voice, though layered with regret, held a sharp edge of urgency. The moment his name crossed the air, the audience buzzed like a hive disturbed. Questions spiraled. Why was he here? Hadn't he left them behind forever? Mia's heart danced between terror and an odd flicker of hope. Could this be the moment for reconciliation she longed for, or was it a cruel twist of fate, a harbinger of darker truths? Stop playing! He shouted suddenly, stepping closer, black fabric swirling around his legs. You don't understand the music isn't safe for you. Every word sliced through her like glass. He thought he was protecting her. The grip of fear twisted tighter around her chest. Her music was her language, her power. Without it, who was she? Safe. She spat back, her hands stilling above the keys. You think you can just come back and tell me what's safe? All this time, I've been looking for you. The mayor, seemingly caught between the shadows and the light, glanced nervously at the figure revealing itself. What truth are you hiding, Luke? He demanded, eyes narrowing. Is it why you abandoned your daughter? Or why she's been chosen? Mia stiffened. Chosen? For what? The truths buried in her family's past clawed their way back, each one a specter demanding to be acknowledged. Chosen for what? The crowd murmured, curiosity intermingled with concern, their expressions a mix of sympathy and apprehension. That energy pulsed through the room, electrifying the air further, yet Mia felt stripped bare. I'm not some pawn, listen. Luke interjected, a desperate urgency in his tone. There are forces at play you don't see. You're tapping into something ancient. Something that shouldn't be disturbed. Mia's thoughts raced. She had always thought of her music as a source of strength, a lifeline. Could it be more than that? The light in the auditorium dimmed as the truth's implications bore down. The shadows behind Luke shifted, revealing more ominous figures, closing in on her sanctuary. Your mother and I, he paused, the weight of unspoken words making the air vibrate with their intensity, we did terrible things to protect you. They want the music for themselves. Who are they? Mia's voice cracked, fear splintering her resolve. The faces of the audience morphed, blending their outrage with dread. They're hunting you. They'll stop at nothing to claim the power within your song. Luke's eyes bore into hers, earnest and pleading. You have to let it go, Mia. Stop playing. Jake stepped forward. What are you saying? This is her voice. If it's dangerous, we'll face it together. His unwavering faith ignited something inside her. But with the rhythm of the darkened figures standing behind Luke like an encroaching storm, did she possess the strength to continue? She raised her hands again, resolved to face whatever truth lay ahead, but doubt paused her fingers just above the keys. Around them, the room pulsed with conflicted energy. The elders whispered nervously, panic rising like shadows in the corners. Mia could feel a reckoning approaching. Will the truth set you free, or will it engulf you? Luke cautioned, an eye locked on the shadows that hung eagerly at the edges of the stage. With a deep breath, she faced the crowd, letting the pulse of her heart guide her next decision. But before she made the choice, a shrill scream pierced through the tumult. All eyes turned to find Granny Callahan, teetering as she pointed behind them. You're not alone, Mia. They're here. The shadows moved closer, not waiting for her answer, as the chilling realization that she had awakened something far more horrifying than just old family secrets settled over her like a shroud. The moment had come, and now she stood at the precipice of a truth far more terrifying than she had ever imagined. Would she continue to play, or would she step into the darkness that beckoned? The haunting melody still hung in the air, waiting, as if it craved an answer that only Mia could provide. What awaited her beyond that stage? The tension erupted in the room like a storm breaking after a long, tense wait. Mia felt her heart race, a wild drum echoing in her ears. The fear lunging at her was palpable. She inhaled sharply, the scent of wood polish and sweat curling its way into her nostrils, blending with the palpable energy of the crowd. Granny! Mia shouted, breaking the silence that had descended. The old woman's presence, frail and fierce, ignited her determination. But what could she do against the shadows creeping closer, their forms twisting and reaching with sinister intent? Luke's voice rang in her mind, warning her of forces far beyond her comprehension. Still, she felt the pull of her music, the lingering melody filling her veins, singing promises of power, connection, and hope. Jake edged nearer, every muscle tensed as if preparing to face an invisible foe. We'll handle this together, he assured her, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them, but Mia could see the shadows morph, undulating in hunger as they thirsted for her. Each subtle movement sent chills racing down her spine. The atmosphere thickened with fear, but it mingled with something else: determination. In this moment, she could feel it coiling inside her, deep and raw, like a coiled snake ready to strike. Tell me who they are, she demanded, directing her gaze to Luke, who seemed to worry as he glanced at the darkening figures. They are the harbingers. Their desire is insatiable, he said, his voice gravelly, worry edging his features. Your music binds them. If you play, they'll come for you to use you. Her fingers trembled on the keys, yet she couldn't deny the truth that resonated within her. The music had always been her escape, her voice, but now it felt like a chain binding her to invisible chains of destiny. As the very air buzzed with anticipation, an unexpected ripple of courage surged within her. Stop! Mia shouted again, her voice sharper now, slicing through the dread that filled the room. That's not who I am. I want to let them control me. The room's energy shifted as everyone looked at her, a collective gasp echoing through the auditorium. Would they stand with her? Would they help fight this looming darkness? Anxiety washed over her like ice water, seeping into her bones, but it was quickly replaced by a fierce determination that bubbled inside. They believe they can tame the music, she declared, her voice rising with conviction. But they don't understand what it truly is. Gathering the strength she had thought lost, Mia brought her fingers to the keys, memories swirling around her like a storm, arguments, love, loss, and hope weaving into the fabric of her melody. She closed her eyes, shutting out the fear while focusing on the truth within her heart, but before she could play, the shadows lunged forward, spectral hands reaching to siphon her energy. Mia's breath caught in her throat as the room erupted into chaos. Keep them back. Jake shouted, thrusting his arm out in defense. The mayor and audience members rallied around them, their faces a mix of determination and fear, each person standing as a barrier against the encroaching darkness. Mia felt their strength bolstering her, it was contagious. Time stood still as she hovered above the keys, panic pooling in her stomach while an exhilarating rush soared through her veins. Now! She shouted, a sudden clarity illuminating her thoughts. We do this together. The platform quaked, the shadows surging closer, but Mia reached deep into herself. It was now or never. And then, with a breath filled with resolve, she began to play. The first note exploded into the air, a defiant battle cry, resonating with pure, unfiltered power. It vibrated with authority, rolling through the shadows like an electric shock. But would her music be enough to banish the darkness, or would the harbingers claim their prize? The stakes had never been higher as the true confrontation loomed on the horizon, and Mia was determined to face it head on. As melodies twirled through the air, a shadowy figure broke free from the pack, lunging at her. Eyes wide with fear, Mia sensed danger closing in. What would happen as the music swelled? Could she truly bring light into such darkness? The music soared, notes striking like arrows, piercing through the eerie haze that enveloped the auditorium. Mia's heart raced as she poured everything she had into the melody, her fingers dancing across the keys, a whirlwind of sound erupting from the piano. Each note vibrated with life and defiance, pushing back against the shadows, but the shadow figure lunged, its face a twisted mask of anguish and longing, fingertips just inches from her. Desperate energy coursed through Mia's veins, and she shifted, instinctively blending her melody with a surge of power that seemed to beckon the crowd forward. Stay with me. She cried out, sensing Jake's hand tighten around hers. The sound blossomed in the air, weaving through the shadows, creating a barrier with its brilliance. The audience gasped, muscles tensing as the dark figure halted for just a moment, caught in the web of her music. For a heartbeat, it seemed as if time had stopped, shadow against light, as the crowd held its breath, but the harbingers, sensing their prey's strength, retaliated. A tidal wave of shadow crashed against Mia's melody, a swirling vortex of intent and despair. The air grew thick with dread, chilling the room until everyone felt it, an icy grip around their hearts. Mia's fingers faltered, doubt piercing through her confidence. What if it's not enough? Fear coiled tightly within her. She glanced at her grandmother, zest undiminished even in the face of danger, and then at Jake, whose eyes were fierce with determination. They believed. They had faith in her. Play! Jake shouted, as if reading her thoughts, his voice slicing through her desperation like a beacon through the haze. And in that moment, she realized, the music was not just hers but theirs too. With a renewed sense of purpose, she turned her focus inward, allowing memories to pour forth, the laughter shared in summer evenings, the comfort of her grandmother's embrace, the bond formed with every shared experience. Each one was a note in her growing composition. Mia pushed her foot down, her heel pressing hard against the pedal, and the sound of a warm, vibrant chord spread like wildfire. It surged over the crowd, washing over them in waves, igniting the fire of hope. The crowds joined in, voicing encouragement, brave hearts countering the creeping shadows with their own energy. Together they called, the words electrifying the air, a fervent echo that rallied the spirits. But the harbingers were relentless, they twisted and morphed, shadows gaping, gnashing spectral teeth. They were growing desperate, hungry for her light, the music that fed them, the very essence of her being. As Mia's song gained momentum, she could feel the darkness writhing in response. The shadows recoiled momentarily, as though the music burned, searing their malevolent forms. With every rising note, she felt the sunlight breaking through the gloom, her melody closing in on the truth. Fear was not the master, she was. With a crescendo that shattered all uncertainty, Mia unleashed a final storm of sound. It collided with the shadows, intertwining and battling against the sinister energy. An explosion of light burst from the piano, enveloping her, Jake, and the audience in a whirlwind of warmth and illumination, yet as the brilliance flooded the room, it revealed something terrifying amidst the chaos. Other shadowy forms shifted in the corners, beyond the main fray, waiting in the darkness, beady eyes glistening with wicked intent. What now? Mia's heartbeat quickened, the facade of victory threatening to crumble. She had pushed back the main wave, but new depths of darkness loomed, threatening to swallow them whole. The music slowed, her fingers hovering above the keys, unease creeping back into her chest. Was this just a temporary reprieve? And what awaited them now, lurking just out of sight, ready to strike? The shadows flickered, and she could feel their sinister whispers reaching, coiling around her like a serpent preparing to strike. Mia realized she was only beginning to uncover the true nature of the harbingers, and their darkness was far from defeated. As she steeled herself for the next note, a haunting question formed in her mind: what else would her music awaken? Would she be ready for the true price of her power? Mia's fingers trembled above the piano keys. The once glistening light began to fade, the shadows creeping closer, their whispers becoming a chilling chant, echoing in her mind. Deep within her, a voice screamed for her to play again, but the dread wrapped around her throat like a vice. What if this time, it was different? What if she couldn't summon the strength to face whatever lay ahead? Once more, Mia. Don't you dare stop. Jake's voice cut through her self-doubt, a lifeline pulling her back from the edge. His fierce determination ignited a burst of courage in her. She took a deep breath, forcing the panic beneath a layer of resolve. With a desperate urgency, she pressed down the keys again, a wave of sound pouring out. Another chord. It was a plea, a challenge, a call to arms against the encroaching darkness. The crowd responded, chanting her name, their breaths mingling with her music, creating a fabric woven from defiance and hope. But the harbingers were evolving. They twisted into grotesque shapes, eyes glinting like shards of ice in the dim light. Fearful gasps erupted from the audience, echoed by her own tightening chest. Mia felt their hunger, their thirst for the power she wielded. The music rose and crashed in waves, but it was becoming a battle of wills. The shadows, relentless and fierce, hurled themselves against her melody, fracturing the harmonies she crafted. Mia. Her grandmother's voice broke through the chaos. Remember why you started. Let your heart guide you. Guided by her grandmother's words, Mia dug deep into her soul, summoning the memories that fortified her, the warmth of summer days spent laughing, the stories woven late into the night. Each note became a beacon of everything she held dear. Suddenly, a haunting melody emerged from her fingers, unexpected yet familiar. It felt as if the keys were no longer mere wood and metal, but a living entity, pulsating with her emotions. She played with fervor, feeling the ancient rhythm surging through her blood. The shadows faltered. They twitched and writhed, momentarily caught in the rising tide of her song. For an instant, just a breath, the auditorium was radiating light, the darkness receding. But Mia's moment of triumph was short-lived. From the periphery, a new wave of shadow surged, a beast formed from the twisted essence of despair, larger and more potent. It towered over the crowd, eyes burning with a ravenous glow that sent shudders down her spine. More. She heard Jake shout, voice strained, but unyielding. The audience clutched their hearts, hands trembling, as if sensing the threat creeping upon them. Mia pushed herself harder, forcing every emotion into the music, her fingers flying, her eyes locked onto the new darkness. Then she noticed that the beast was feeding off the fear pouring from the audience. "Stop. Don't give in," she pleaded, an echo of her grandmother's strength. "Fight back. Our fear is not their feast." In response, the crowd hesitated for a fraction, but then surged forward, voices rising, their collective spirit igniting a barrier against despair. Mia felt the power ripple beneath her fingers. She struck the keys with renewed vigor, an anthem of resistance flooding the air. The monster howled, a cacophony that intertwined with her melody, but she sensed a change. The shadows were no longer just hollow forms, they were manifestations of the crowd's doubt and fears. If she could transform that fear into strength, perhaps she could wrestle control back from the darkness. With a final push, she let the music explode into a frenzy of sound and light. Suddenly, the auditorium pulsed with a brilliant glow, casting the shadows in sharp relief. But as the brilliance illuminated the stage, she caught a glimpse of something far darker lurking behind it all, an entity much more treacherous than the swirling shadow beasts. A presence that hung like a storm cloud, vast and insidious. What was that? The question twisted in her gut, a sense of foreboding tightening its grip. Would her melody be enough to unearth the truth, or had she unwittingly awoken something she wasn't prepared to face? Mia pressed on, heart racing, wondering if they had truly uncovered the core of the harbingers or if the most fearsome adversary was still to come. The darkness writhed in response to her mounting melody, as if it were alive, coiling and twisting, drawing nearer to the stage. Mia's heart thundered in her chest, each beat a reminder of the stakes. The shadows seemed to mock her, their mocking eyes glistening with a terrible delight as they fed on fear she cultivated in herself every time she hesitated. "Hold fast!" a voice shouted, but it was indistinct amid the chaos. Was it Jake? Or perhaps her grandmother's spirit wrapping around her like a protective blanket? Mia focused on the music, weaving her emotions into each note, her desperation morphing into fury. But the entity lurking in the shadows grew, a malevolence that whispered dark promises and bleak visions. The music, once her ally, now echoed with uncertainty. She sensed its energy pulsing like a heartbeat, anchoring the darkness while trying to unmoor her very essence. The audience was no longer chanting her name, they were holding their breaths, eyes wide, caught between hope and dread. Mia was their thread, their connection to bravery. "What do I do?" she thought. "How can I banish that monster?" Forcing herself to inhale deeply, she embraced the memories of her grandmother's laughter, the warmth of summer, the light of 1,000 stars. She could feel those memories mingling with the sorrow surrounding her, a storm of emotions ready to be unleashed. It was time to reclaim the stage not only for herself but for everyone gathered there. With renewed resolve, she struck the keys harder, each note a weapon against the shadow beast. The rhythm shifted, now composed of defiance and fire. And then it happened. An electric pulse surged through the air, stunning the shadows momentarily. The audience gasped, their collective fear rising like a tide, mingling with fortitude. The beast, sensing the change, howled a sound that cut through the dim air with icy teeth, echoing like thunder. "Mia." Jake's voice was a lifeline again. "You can do this. Show them you're not afraid." With her chest tight, she unleashed the haunting, desperate refrain, an aria woven with the strength of every soul in that room. She saw flashes of her grandmother's smiling face, the weight of her belief shining bright. Suddenly, the darkness reared back, and in that blink of an eye, Mia felt a flicker of warmth shatter her cold dread. The shadows shrunk and hissed, their grotesque forms twisting in agony against the brilliance of her song. The light pulsing from the piano, driven by pure, unrelenting courage, forced them to contort and withdraw. But in that moment of triumph, a chilling realization struck her. The larger entity was still lurking at the edge, beyond the immediate threat. It was watching, waiting, its pulse synchronized with hers. Determined not to back down, Mia poured her spirit into the crescendo of her melody, and with each note, the shadows frayed a little more. "It's now or never," she thought, heart slamming against her ribs. The energy around her shimmered, wrapping around her like a cocoon. "Fight, she breathed. Fight for them all. And there, amidst the chaos, the dark presence shifted. It began to take a form that was half remembered, half forgotten, a silhouette she might have heard of in whispers, tales of dread passed down through generations. That a sudden silence descended, thick with anticipation. Mia paused, fingers suspended over the keys, caught between worlds. The air was charged, and the beast before her loomed larger than she could have ever imagined. Its eyes locked onto hers, glinting with a dark intelligence that sent shivers through her spine. What had she awakened? A challenge? A monster? Or something much more profound, buried beneath the layers of fear? With her heart hammering, Mia realized this battle was just beginning, and she still had no idea what the final price would be. The tension in the air was suffocating. Just a beat away from the final note, Mia felt the searing heat of the beast's gaze piercing through her. This was no ordinary shadow. It was an echo of history, of stories told in hushed tones, tales of an entity called the Black Wyrm. Her grandmother had warned her about it, a creature born from despair and darkness, feeding on fear and sorrow. The audience, a mix of her friends and strangers, had morphed into a battleground of hope and dread. Their faces reflected her turmoil as they clung to her every note, straddling the line between faith and imminent terror. She needed to take control. Suddenly, the air thickened, the temperature dropping as more shadows crept forth, writhing from the corners of the stage like serpents. Mia's breath came in quick gasps as frigid tendrils brushed against her skin, whispering wicked sweet nothings of defeat. The darkness wanted her to submit, to falter. But then Jake's voice shot through the silence again. Mia. Breathe. Remember who you are. His unwavering belief ignited something deep within her. She was more than just a girl with a talent for music, she was a force of nature, a torchbearer of light, ready to pierce through the veil of despair. She cast a glance at the crowd, their eyes were wide, reflecting a blend of terror and fervent hope. Mia drew strength from them, from their gasps and silent prayers. They believed in her. But did she believe in herself? With a surge of determination, she slammed her fingers back onto the keys, letting the music flow like molten lava. It erupted from her, a furious, unyielding melody crafted from the rawness of her emotions. Each note clawed at the dark mass before her, disrupting its pulse, throwing off its balance. The Black Wyrm howled, a mournful cry that reverberated through her bones. It lunged closer, the shadows amalgamating into a massive maw that dripped with malice. Her heartbeat quickened, each pulse echoing like a war drum. Mia closed her eyes, letting her thoughts spiral back to her grandmother's stories. Light against dark, love conquers fear, she whispered under her breath, almost an incantation. As she reached the climax of her performance, something strange began to happen. The shadows flickered, their chaotic writhing slowing as if her notes formed a net, catching them, binding them. This is your power. She thought, this is who you are. With newfound strength, she dove even deeper into the sound, each chord electric, sparking wildly around her. The Black Wyrm screeched, its form beginning to destabilize, stretching and warping under the force of her music. In that moment, a blinding white light erupted from the piano, enveloping her like a shield. It shattered the darkness behind her, illuminating her path. The audience erupted in gasps and cheers, their fear turning into fervor, feeding her rise. But as she drew near to victory, the black mass convulsed violently, pulling the remnants of its shadow back to it. The terror in its presence was palpable, wrapping around Mia like a vice. Desperation clawed at her throat, she needed one last push. Just as she reached the brink of despair, the vision of her grandmother emerged in her mind, radiant and filled with love, not just for Mia but for everyone watching. Fight for love, the thought thundered in her head. With one final surge, Mia poured everything into that melody, igniting it with pure, unyielding love, a love that would not back down. The shadows writhed, caught between despair and the relentless light that shattered their hold, and then she felt it, a crack in the darkness, the beginning of a fissure. She pressed onward, heart racing as she sensed that something monumental was about to happen. But just when it seemed like the darkness would finally splinter, a voice whispered through the chaos, low and insidious. "This is only the beginning." Mia's breath caught as a chill washed over her. What had she awakened? What else lurked beyond the veil? The moment hung in the air, heavy with anticipation. The true struggle was yet to come, and time began to slip through her fingers like sand. Mia's heart raced as the shadows writhed against the radiance of her music. This is it, she thought fiercely, the melody surging from her fingers like a tidal wave. But the ominous whisper still lingered in the air, a weight that pressed against her chest. Only the beginning. The atmosphere thickened. Shadows twisted and turned, feeding into the very dread she fought against, each note she played becoming a lifeline between hope and despair. The audience, a kaleidoscope of fear and courage, watched with bated breath. Their faces, illuminated by the nearby glow of the piano, mingled confusion with solidarity. "Stay with me." Jake's voice rang out, unwavering, a beacon cutting through the encroaching darkness. She felt his faith urging her on. "Together." Mia shouted, letting their energy fuel her. She inhaled deeply, resolving not just to push back the darkness but to confront it head-on. Her fingers danced over the keys, each note growing stronger, echoing the collective heartbeat of those gathered. They were united in this moment, standing as one against the harbingers, and her music became their weapon. Suddenly, the black worm reacted, recoiling as if her melody struck a nerve. The shadows twisted violently, swirling with anger, their viscous forms twitching in distress. She sensed it then, a shift in the air, a fracture in the darkness. "Keep going. You can do this, Mia." Jake shouted again, his voice steady even as his eyes brimmed with concern. With a fierce determination igniting in her chest, she surged ahead, weaving a tapestry of sound that wrapped around fear, transforming it into strength. But then, a deep growl resonated, raw and animalistic, and the monstrosity lunged forward. "No!" Mia cried out, thrusting her arms as if to hold the very darkness at bay. Yet with every surge of light she created, the entity countered, embodying despair, whispering promises of safety if only she would stop. The shadows began to shimmer, their forms coalescing into something grotesque, a giant faceless figure, merging the darkness into destruction. Panic flared in the audience, murmurs rising to panicked shouts. "We can't let them win!" Someone cried, hands reaching upward, filled with resolve. Mia squeezed her eyes shut, feeling the pulse of her heart sink with the rhythm of her music. She thought of her father, his pain wrapped in mystery, of her mother's hope, flickering within their home, of Jake's unwavering support. Gripping the piano with sweaty palms, she realized that their love transformed her fear into music, and music into strength. "I won't let you take this away!" she roared. The sound of her defiance echoed in the auditorium, slicing through the shadows. Then her fingers found a new rhythm, a heartbeat, a call to arms that resonated deeply within them all. The crowd joined in, their voices rising in harmony with her melody, a wave of sound that crashed against the looming darkness. Together, they fueled the fire, voices merging into a powerful chorus fueled by hope and resilience. With each chord, the shadows sputtered and recoiled, the black worm staggering as if caught in a gale. The entity flickered, pulsing with erratic energy, losing form. Mia felt it then, a flicker of hope blossoming in her chest. "Together. We are the light." Mia shouted as she let the final note crescendo, lingering in the air, filled with luminosity and spirit. The very fabric of the darkness began to fray, threads snapping and fluttering away, leaving behind whispers of sorrow, but fading echoes of their hold. The entity howled in primal fury, its shape disintegrating, scattering into the ether as if it were made of smoke. The auditorium trembled, vibrating with relief as the shadows shrieked and dissipated, banished back to obscurity. When the last note faded, an awe-filled silence enveloped the auditorium, before it erupted. Cheers and applause tore through the air, a tidal wave of love and affirmation washing over Mia. Tears streamed down her face as she looked out at the sea of familiar faces, her community, her friends who stood united in triumph. Jake broke through the crowd, eyes shining with pride. You did it! He exclaimed, pulling her into an embrace that felt safe and strong. Mia's heart swelled, a warmth blossoming in the center of her chest as she realized they had triumphed together. Among the crowd, Granny Callahan smiled, wiping away her tears. You've awakened something beautiful, Mia, she said, voice steady and gracious. Keep that light shining. Mia nodded, still trembling from the transformation that had just unfolded. Everything had changed in that moment. The shadows may have revealed dark truths, but they had also illuminated the strength of her spirit, the courage of community, and the magic that lay within her song. As the applause drowned out the remnants of darkness, Mia took a deep breath. This was a new beginning, a fresh chapter for Maplewood. With her heart full of gratitude, she knew they would face whatever challenges lay ahead together, united, resilient, and forever changed. In the quiet aftermath, she turned to Jake, a smile breaking through the chaos. Let us keep the music alive, she whispered, embracing the extraordinary journey ahead. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, illuminating the town in warm hues of gold, Mia felt a surge of hope rekindle in her heart. This was just the start. Now, before we wrap up, I need you all to do something. You need to subscribe right now, this moment is crucial. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm. Seriously, it matters. Flood the comments section with your thoughts about the ending, let us hear your reactions and theories. And right now, don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.